Hi everyone. So I decided to do this talk because a few people in quick succession actually asked me how to set up WordPress on the server, and it suddenly occurred to me that not everybody knows how to do it manually. There is one-click installs on, I think, most web hosts nowadays, but sometimes you might not want to use the one-click install. Sometimes it's not very configurable. You might only be able to put a username or a password in. You might want to have more control. So it's useful to know this. Also, if you want to install it locally on your computer, you kind of want to know this as well, because this is how you do it on your locally, so that you can build without putting it on a web server. So I'm going to quickly tell you how to set up using PHPMyAdmin on your web server, your WordPress install. And then afterwards I'm also going to tell you, because a few people also asked, how you can have your WordPress install in the subdirectory, but have it appear in the root. So that's basically what I'm going to cover. So it's rather misleadingly called "Where's the one-click install?" but it's actually a talk about not using one-click install. Okay, so first of all, choosing your host, if you haven't already chosen your host. I do advise using Linux. I find that it's just simpler to use Linux, and the minimum requirements, you can look them up on WordPress, because as things go along, you might have different minimum requirements, but most hosts will have well above the minimum requirements that you need for WordPress, so you don't have to worry about that. Sorry, I keep realising that I keep turning away from the mic. So, this is the WordPress 5-minute install. So, but I would like to say that the first time you do this, it will probably take you considerably longer than 5 minutes. After you've done it a few times though, you should be able to rattle through. So, step 1, you have to download and extract from WordPress.org the WordPress file. So, that's it, that's step 1, over and done with, so that's nice and easy. So you should all be feeling quite confident by now that this is going to be quite an easy-going thing. So, step 2. Okay, so step 2 is a little bit more complicated, but I think that step 2 is about as complicated as it gets. So if you get through step 2, then you should be alright for everything else. Now, most of the time you'll have a control panel, and it will come with a wizard. That means that you can set up your database just by filling in fields. It's pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not really going to go through these, except for to say that if you want to use the MySQL database wizard, say in control panel, there are detailed instructions that you can find on WordPress.org, but it's just basically filling in fields, and there's a similar one for Flask as well. So, like I said, I'm not going to go through this because it's quite straightforward. It's just filling in the fields and then just following the instructions as you go. So what I really want to talk about is how you do it using PHPMyAdmin. So this is a really useful thing to know how to do. It's really useful to use PHPMyAdmin for a whole load of things. So, but it doesn't seem as user-friendly at first when you first see it. There's different pages you have to go through. So I'm going to take you through step by step so that you feel confident. I'm going to put these slides up on SlideShare so you can go through it step by step, and you should be able to do it. So we're going to go through slowly. So first of all, you want to add your database. So when you log into PHPMyAdmin, which you'll find probably through your control panel, so different hosts have different control panels, but you'll find an icon for PHPMyAdmin. If you go through that, and then you click on where it says databases, then right at the top where there's the nice big red arrow, that's where you fill in your database name. So anything you like, but it's probably worth making it something that makes sense to you. So, you know, WordPress or the name of your site or something like that. So you can call it Bob, Fred, you know, anything you like. So, and then you're going to want to choose your collation. So Unicode is a good one. It's probably going to be something with UFT8 underscore something. You have many options there. And then click create. And that's it, you've just created your database. So that's That's it, you've created your database all on your own, well, with the help of PHP-MyAdmin, which does simplify things slightly. So next you want to add a user, that this is going to be your main user that has all of your permissions to do everything that you want with your WordPress install and everything. So you just click Add User, and it will take you to this page. So then you choose a username, so don't choose admin, but any other name is good. Also, it's worth mentioning, make sure that it says use text field. It will be on that as default, but just worth checking. Keep it on use text field and enter the username of your choice. Then, next, you just choose a password. So I say complex password, and you know what I mean. Password is not a complex password, even if you put 55 instead of SS, so don't do that. So just, but you know, it doesn't have to be so complicated that you'll never be able to type it out, even if it's in front of you, but yeah, so I think we all know complex password by now. So numbers, letters, things like, you know, symbols, mixture, it's quite good. But like I said, not password with 55 instead of SS, because that's not complex. So, you should also as well make a note of these, the host name, which will be at the top. So you can do that at any point during this whole process. Just remember what it is. It's probably localhost, but in case it's not, take a note of what that is. So leave all of the other options at default, and then you have to go back to your user. If you go to the menu at the top, go back to your user page, because you want to put your database-specific permissions. So if you select the database, which will be whatever you call the database, and then go down to your, in this case it's called WordPress, and then you just check all to select all of your global permissions, and then click Go. So step 3. So that's the most complex step done. So if you've done that, you know, you really are, you're home and clear, really. So step 3, config. So WordPress says that this is an optional step, but if you've come this far, I really recommend that you do this, because you can do some more configuration here using your WordPress config without having to go back into PHP-MyAdmin or anything like that. So return to where you extracted all your files in WordPress at the beginning, and find the file name config-sample.php, and either change the name to config, wp-config.php, or copy it with the name wp-config.php. So, and then you can find all of your database settings that you're going to set up under this heading here, MySQL settings. And then you just use the details that you set up in step 2. So the database name, there'll be a bit where it says database name, and then there'll be a placeholder. So you just overwrite that with the database name you've chosen. Same with password. And then of course at the host name, you put the host name that you determined in step 2. So then you can also change your table prefix. I think anyone that's been to this group before knows that we recommend, for security reasons, that you change the table prefix. So you can change it to anything you like, as long as it's numbers and letters with an underscore. I said here, change it to something else. It doesn't actually have to be something else, it can be anything you like. And then don't forget to save your file. Okay, so step 4, so we really are on the home stretch now, so just 2 more steps to go. Step 4 is simply upload your files. So decide where you want it to be, although, like I said, I will tell you how it can be somewhere and then appear somewhere else later. So decide where you want it to be, if it's at example.com or say at /blog/WordPress. And then you just using your control panel, you can use a file manager to upload all of your files, or you can use an FTP client to upload your files to where you want them to be on your server. And then you just need to point your browser, and by that I mean you just type into your address URL where you put your script. So, yeah, so if you put it in the root, just do example.com/wp-admin/install PHP. And if you put it in a folder called WordPress, do the same, but with folder, example.com/wordpress/wp-admin/install PHP. Just enter your details when prompted. And if all goes well, you should see this. Success! So you have actually set up your database, your user, and at this point installed WordPress. So, okay, I must admit, it is more complex than using a one-click install, but you've actually configured everything that you want to. Another thing is with the WordPress config file as well, is you can do other things as well. You can turn on debugging. You probably, if you're learning this, you don't even want to know about that. But you can also sort your, you can use secret keys. There's lots of comments in your config file that's well documented, so have a look at it if you haven't looked at it, see what you can do with it. So, the second part that I want to tell you about, because lots of people have asked me how to do this as well, is how you can have your site appearing in your root whilst having it in the directory. So I know a lot of people are interested in how to do this, so it's really straightforward. It's actually much more straightforward than what we've just discussed with setting up your WordPress site. So log into your WordPress, go to your dashboard, and then go to your general settings. If you don't know where that is, you just go straight down to the bottom of your left-hand menu there, and you'll see settings, and it's the first panel, general settings, and you just change where it says site address URL. You change that to whatever you want it to be. So if you've installed all of your WordPress files at example.com/WordPress, but you want it to appear at example.com, you just delete that /WordPress bit so that it looks like the site address that you want it to be. So I would advise stay on this page, because if you try and look at your blog now, it'll just upset you. You'll think that you've broken it, you haven't broken it, you'll wonder if you can get back to the admin page. You can get back to the admin page, but it's just really not even worth to just even going there. So just stay where you are for now. Then what you want to do is, using your FTP client or your control panel file manager, you want to go to your WordPress folder, copy your index.php and your htaccess file. Don't move them, because otherwise you'll break your site, and it's fine because you can move them back, you can copy them back, but it's upsetting and you'll lose confidence. So copy, not move, is the safest way. I mean, you have to copy, not move, but don't panic if you forget and accidentally move them, because you can copy them back. But anyway, htaccess file does tend to be invisible, so you might have to show it. If you're not using printed permalinks, you might not have it. So if you've turned on so that you can see all of your invisible files and you still can't see it, don't panic, it just might not be there. Later on, you can create one. If you update your permalinks later on, it will automatically create one. So then you want to open your index.php in a text editor, and by that I mean something like Gedit text editor on Notepad, so not anything that has any formatting. And you just want to change the line that says this, require directory name file wp blog header php, and all you want to do is you just want to put in that little /WordPress/blog header php. So that's just telling this file to look in your WordPress folder, because this is now outside the WordPress folder for your header. Save the file. So now if you go to your permalinks, which is at the bottom of the settings where you already found your general settings, and update your permalink structure, WordPress will automatically update your permalinks. And if you found that you didn't have an htaccess file, WordPress will have automatically generated that htaccess file. If WordPress can't write to your htaccess file, don't panic, and it's just sometimes on different servers it might not have all the permissions it needs. It will display the rules to you, and they'll look something like this. So you just copy and paste those in, and you manually copy them into your htaccess file. which will be in the root folder now. So not in your WordPress folder, but the one above that. So, and that's it. You did it. You set up your WordPress and you moved it to your top level domain. I just want to say there's a couple of things that you might notice after everything's gone so smoothly and you're feeling really good. You might suddenly find that you can't log in. Well, that's because your login will probably still be at your old URL. So even if all of your site pages and everything work exactly as you hoped, to log in you might still have to go to your old URL. So, for example, example.com/WordPress, whatever it's called, wp-admin. Another thing is, and nobody told me this, the first time that I did this, I suddenly realised that my admin bar had gone missing. When I was looking at my website, my admin bar was missing. I checked my settings, and it didn't say hide the admin bar when you looked at your site. And then I realised that what you have to do is you have to clear all your cookies and then refresh your browser. So when you do that, of course, it will log you out, so you'll have to log in again. Then you should find everything working. So those are just a couple of gotchas that I found along the way. So did I speed through that again as usual? Hello. You use the multi-site option if you want to have a multi-site, but otherwise, no, you don't need to. Are there any other questions?
Diane, I think when you talked about permalinks, but even if you don't change your permalink structure, it's certainly worth saving that page to actually make sure that all the permalinks are flushed and everything like that.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's always worth just going back, and you don't even need to do it. But I sort of click on and off, and then save. You should even just visiting the page should be enough to flush all the permalinks. Yes. Hi.
Hi. I know you said the minimum requirement for WordPress was 5.2.4 for PHP, but I'm really sorry. I have to point out that 5.2.4 is not actually maintained by the PHP community anymore. It's 5.4, which should be the minimum requirement in terms of PHP that the PHP community is supporting. And also, if you move up to 5.4, you actually get a fair amount of security fixes and speed improvements naturally by moving up. So if you can, do ask for 5.4 as minimum.
Yeah, I mean the minimum requirements for WordPress are just kind of the minimum that WordPress needs to run. But yes, I think most hosts I think now would be running 5.4 hopefully. It's if you're developing as well, it's worth developing for kind of making sure that you're developing for the latest version of PHP that you can. But yeah, the minimum requirements were just that kind of the minimum requirements that officially WordPress has. Certainly, I agree with you. Yeah, you want to be looking at PHP, 5.3 at the minimum, 5.4 really.
5.3 is end of life already, so
right,
5.4
okay.
At minimum.
Okay, 5.4, but already it's worth doing 5.5 if you can at the moment. Of course, always try to go for the latest version of PHP that you can for future-proofing, if nothing else. Hi.
Hi. So there was two URLs displayed in the general settings.
Shall I go back?
Yeah.
Sorry, I kept turning away from the microphone. I couldn't remember what I'd written.
Yep. Right.
Yeah. Cool.
So why not modify the WordPress address URL?
Okay, so the WordPress address URL kind of tells you where the site actually is, and the site URL is the one that tells you where you want the site to appear to be. So if you've got your blog or your WordPress site at example.com, then both of those fields can say the same thing. But if you've got it in a subdirectory but you want it to look like it's not in a subdirectory, that's when you change the top one. So, and then with the rewrite rules, it kind of makes it look like it's in the root, whereas there's only really two files in the root. Or really the important one is your index PHP. So, that makes sense?
I wonder if you did modify it, you would have that simple amounts.
Ah, right, okay. Well, I shall...
Isn't it the top one? I don't know, but correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't it the top one? That should be the actual URL where your files...
That is, yeah, where all of your files are
Because that's
kept.
the real, the physical location
Yeah,
of
yeah.
your file.
So
But
they-
underneath is the logical.
Yes, yes. The one underneath is the pretend. is where, yeah. The one underneath, you know, because you only have one of your WordPress files, well, two if you've got your htaccess file as well, which you should do because you should be using pretty permalinks. But yeah, but your actual install is still in example.com WordPress, even after you've changed it to make it look like it isn't. It is still actually physically there. All of your important files are there.
You have more than one software for WordPress.
You can have subdirectories. If you want to have different installs of WordPress, though, that might be when you might use the multi-site. I mean, I'm not really an expert on using multi-site myself, so I think that there's quite a lot of people here that might be better placed to answer that question.
It still creates a subdirectory which is using one database.
Yeah, so I know that you can in theory as well use kind of different table prefixes, so you can run lots of, well, not lots, but different WordPresses using the same database as well, so I know that, but to be honest, myself, I've only ever really run one WordPress on one database, so...
I mean, when I first started developing websites for people, I tried that, running sort of multiple sites out of the same database. It just gets really messy.
Yeah, no.
That quite quickly.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that.
I was going to say, I mean, it's been in the news recently, everyone's heard about PlayStation and the servers going down. On one of my servers, we've been hit by a brute force attack recently. And it's something that I think is worth mentioning because I see it find so often about FTP. Now it's actually bad practice to use FTP.
Yeah.
You should
Yeah.
use SFTP if you can.
Yes, it's instead of using FTP now, it's better to use SFTP, which is kind of like a tunneling instead of using an FTP. It's more secure. Lots of hosts now as well won't actually let you upload files using FTP. You'll have to use SFTP or your control panel instead. So, but you are right. There is. FTP is considered to be insecure. I suppose sort of when I say FTP, I also, you know, some like FileZilla will use SFTP and will pretty much appear the same as FTP. So sometimes when I say FTP, I also mean SFTP.
Yeah, talking about personal installation, which means installing WordPress on your computer and keeping database separated, what do you think about using a solution like, I don't know, Vagrant or Docker to keep the installation of WordPress separated from everything else on your computer?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't actually used Vagrant on my local computer. I'm afraid I can't answer that question.
Okay.
Sorry.
What's a good SFTP product to use?
I tend to use FileZilla if I'm using Windows, but you can also use a command line if you're using Linux. Cyberduck I've been told is also good.
Is FileZilla secure?
Anything using FTP is, you know, is insecure, but SFTP is considered more secure. So.
It's worth knowing, so to close it down.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. So yeah, when you've finished, don't leave the back door open. That's.
Okay, last question.
Oh.
For the record, don't use FileZilla because it stores its password to plain text on your hard drive.
Right. Okay. Good point. Okay. Don't use FileZilla.
On Windows, I used WinFTP, I think, and then I don't use FTP might work.
Right, okay, I'll check that out. And then, like I said, of course, you can use command line, anyone that's a Linux user as well, so.
The other point is in your config, a lot of shared hosting, you have to set up FTP settings so you can upload stuff like themes and plugins you have for your backend. A lot of them don't let you write unless you have FTP credentials in your totally config. So.
All right, okay, thank you. I shall make sure that I update these slides before I do the next talk. Thank you very much.